Hi everyone, and welcome at today's video where we're going to be discussing about corporate strategy and tactics, the relationship between these two, and eventually how some factors can significantly influence our corporate strategy, if not even dilute it. But before we dig into it, let us also look back a bit at one of the previous videos we had a while ago about what is strategic management, because it's extremely important for us to recap a bit the relationship between a company's mission and a company's vision. Okay, now starting with the vision, that is a way to show to the world our long-term aim, okay, with that company, while the mission is the tool with which we communicate to stakeholders how are we actually going to get there. How are we actually going to achieve that? Okay? And you can see at multiple companies that these are just holistic messages out there. They don't really explain how are you going to do this step by step. Of course, you can't really explain that because you would lose your competitive advantage, but you have to come back internally now, look at your mission, look at your vision, okay, and break it down into corporate or company strategy, and point out the tactics out there to give your employees a sense of alignment so that everybody is pulling in the same direction and everyone's effort is heading towards fulfilling that company's vision. Okay, so let's get into it now. What do we understand by corporate strategy? And there are three keywords over here: position, aim, and environment. Now, I like to think that the corporate strategy is an action plan on how you are going to achieve the company objectives, the corporate objectives. But there's something about this action plan that you can't really ignore because it's a long-term action plan, okay? What you do today is really important and must impact on the overall plan that we have until next year. And this is where the main difference between corporate strategy and tactics will kick in. Okay, now looking at the keywords over here, this long-term plan and this long-term action plan that it's hopefully gonna get me to achieve my corporate objectives needs to be based on an assessment of which is my current position, what is my current aim as a company, and which is the current environment in which either I'm operating or will be operating. This is in case the company hasn't started its activity until now, or is diversifying and entering into new markets, maybe. Okay? Now, this is great, and we just found out what we want to achieve, I don't know, by next year or by next 5 years, but what happens tomorrow? What do we do tomorrow? Okay? And this is where tactics kick in, because the corporate strategy doesn't really tell us the step-by-step actions that we're going to take in order to achieve that long-term goal that we have. And that's what tactics do. They are specific actions that will take us to achieve a certain goal. Now, you also have to look at authority to actually understand the difference between who sets the corporate strategy and who sets the tactics. And if you look at managerial levels, at management levels, you would be able to understand that the corporate strategy is exclusively dedicated to high-level executives and maybe even shareholders, depending on the type of the company and size of the company and history of the company. Why not? And when we look at tactics, this will be the sole responsibility of mid-level and entry-level managers to deal with, okay? Now, there's no better way to explain this without looking at a industry like football, of which I'm a big fan. So let's take an exercise of imagination and consider that starting tomorrow you have a football club in which you've invested quite some money, and now as a owner you want some returns. So setting your long-term action plan, your corporate strategy for this football club would be to participate and win UEFA Champions League, okay? And that is not an easy objective. That is definitely a strategic objective which takes place in time. So, okay, we just found out what you want to do in the next 5 years, but what are you going to do tomorrow, okay? So that's where tactics kick in, because as of tomorrow, we have to make certain investments and transfers. As of tomorrow, we have to win every match out there to make sure that we qualify for the groups and we enter the groups first. As of tomorrow, we need to make sure that we have the right coach. As of tomorrow, we need to have the right investments in our stadium so that it actually qualifies for us to play in these international competitions. We need to have a chef for the team. We need to have a special physical coach for our team. We need to have someone in our board with experience that has managed a Champions League or has prepared a team for Champions League before. So you see, there's so many actions that require a timeline and that are immediate or much closer to take and needed to take in order to achieve your long-term action plan, which is the corporate strategy. Okay, so I wish you best of luck with your football club, and give me a call when you actually get past the groups to congratulate, because I'll definitely congratulate you. That's quite an achievement. Okay. Now, the third objective of this lesson today was for us to understand what actually influences our corporate strategy. And the keywords we have here is objectives, resources, strengths, competition, market trends, leadership style, tech and innovation, crisis management, and cultural differences. Of course, out there on the internet, you're gonna see some of them presented like standard. Others, I just added them from personal experience. This is not the holy grail over here. More can be added, I'm sure. And actually, if you come to think about it, I was just looking at the low-hanging fruits, which you can, let's say, immediately take action or correct because they're out there to be seen. And I'll start with the objectives, okay? So if your objectives are not clear, the chances of this diluting your corporate strategy are 100%. And if you don't have clear objectives, you're not heading in the clear direction, which means you're not using your resources in the best possible way. Well, guess what? Little to no return might come back. So don't be surprised if you end up ending completely your business venture if your objectives are not set clear. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, resources. Okay? You might have a scarcity or abundance of resources, which means that you have to completely change your game depending on the resources that you have. On the other hand, as in economics, the concept of effective demand, if you don't have resources behind the goals that you're setting on paper, they are stuck at the wish level, and between wish and reality, there's a huge difference. And I don't think you're going to make it. So make sure you fairly evaluate your resources. In case you're missing, look also at the opportunities and alternatives you have there to gather more resources in order to make sure that what you're planning has also the financial muscle behind it to actually become reality. Okay? Now let's look at strengths, okay? There might be some strengths that I have which my competitors don't, okay? And I need to become quickly aware of those strengths and make sure that I plan in the long run based on those strengths, okay? Because that will give you a competitive advantage. Okay, when it comes to competition, Now, competition might be blue ocean or red ocean, depending on the market in which you are actually existing. But I think that competition is important to look at, maybe even to benchmark, because it can also tell you by studying it what you can do better or what you can do different to actually make a difference, gain more market share, and have clients choose you over other competitors. Okay? Market trends is extremely important. Do not neglect this because you might be in an industry where the trends really matter. Okay? And consumers, tend to look for something that is bigger, better, nicer, and cheaper. So these trends are extremely important to consider. Now the next one, you'll see that I've actually added it in a different color, and this has to do with leadership style. And this one is very special for me because I've seen companies knocked in the ground because of leaders' ego, infatuation with their capacities and capabilities and ideas, and the company has suffered severely. And it might have touched its corporate strategy, it might have achieved partially its vision, but it was with at a very expensive price. And by that expensive price, I meant alienation of company culture. The people were working more of fear than being motivated by the leader through example. It came with great attrition. It came with a lot of conflicts between the executives working in order to align the company to achieve the same vision. So be very careful at the leadership style over here that you are embracing to get to that objective that you have there in the long run. It can change over time, but what I'm trying to tell you is that you have to be a good juggler and juggle between many things here, considering the employees, the shareholders, the profit, your personal ambitions, and eventually, what do you want to leave as a legacy as a leader, okay? It's not a case that you're going to disappear from Earth, but maybe you just have a mandate or you just have a mission over here. So what you leave as a legacy, it's also a business card for you, okay? Now, going to tech and innovation, there are a lot of changes out there. It doesn't matter the industry in which you are in. I'm sure you can intertwine with technology one way or another. And I've seen such high levels of illiteracy in small businesses, especially, that if they were to make a minimum investment over there, and that's, even at basic things on how they're communicating with the employees and how they're shipping out messages and offers out there, it can make a huge difference. So guys, just ask around what else I can improve from a tech and innovation point of view, whether it's processes, whether it's the gadgets, the software that you're using. I'm sure there's something you can improve over there. And guess what? It will translate into less time, lower costs, less headaches eventually, so it can be very good for you to look into this. Crisis management. Now, it's gonna hit you. Let me tell you something really honest. It's gonna hit you, and it's gonna be for sure. It's just a matter of time until the tsunami comes towards you, okay? And this is what crisis management is about. It's about having some experienced people on board, which when the crisis hits, the tsunami comes, they will calm down things and provide contingency plans on how we're gonna get out of that crisis, okay? So you're not gonna be an exception. It's just a matter of time, but I want you to be prepared and build, first of all, mentally for you as a leader, scenarios of what if things go south? What if that's not gonna happen? What if the revenue that I projected is gonna be just 1 third of it, what do I do then? What are the immediate actions that I need to take to keep the boat floating and the company going? How do I avoid that? Okay, so crisis management is a really important exercise and factor that can influence your corporate strategy. And last but not least, and this is specific to multinationals operating in several geographies, the cultural differences. I've seen so many projects fail because there was a language, culture, working style barrier between the team members that were supposed to deliver on the same vision. Okay, and I've seen delays, and when I got to the root cause analysis of that, it was just poor communication and different way of doing things and different paces. Once we fixed that, the results were pretty incredible. Okay, so these are some of the factors that I consider can severely influence your corporate strategy. I hope I left enough examples for you to understand how each of them can impact. But I want us now to take another exercise, better said, a case study of how one furniture giant is actually translating their mission and their vision into small bits and pieces tactics that will get them closer to where they want to be. Okay, and that giant is, as you may have already guessed, is IKEA. Okay, for those of you that don't know IKEA, just imagine a huge store where you can buy furniture in almost everywhere. Just imagine the equivalent of McDonald's, but selling furniture, not hamburgers, okay? And not only that, it is affordable goods, okay? And now if we look at their vision is to create a better everyday life for many people, okay? That's very noble. That's their vision. As I said, that's the message communicated out there. And if you communicate it to someone as a client or someone as an investor, that might be enough. Maybe the investor would definitely ask for more details if he or she wants to put money in that company. But maybe for the client is sufficient. Now, for the employee, that vision needs to be translated and broken into pieces so they understand where they can contribute according to their specialty, skills, experience, and the job you're ultimately going to offer him or her to actually get you closer to that vision. Now, looking at the mission now to create a better everyday life for everyone, or many people, they want to offer a wide range of well-designed, furnished products, prices so low that as many people as possible can be able to afford them. And now let's look at the tactics over there. Now, what makes them different, unique? There are a lot of retailers and producers out there selling furniture, but what will make you stick with IKEA are some of the tactics that they actually use in order to differentiate themselves and are highly representative of their corporate strategy, which is representative of their vision and their mission. So I would start first, and this is talking from experience mainly, I would start first with the in-store experience. I think it's great the way you can test the furniture in their stores. I think it's great that you can take the kids over there and they can play. There's a play area. And I also think it's great that you can enjoy some food over there and even rest a bit because the shop is quite huge. And if your wife is in a good day, she's gonna keep you a while over there. So it's good to know that you can have a place where you can rest a bit and grab a bite. Then the flat packaging strategy, and this is meant to make the goods transported from their factory or warehouse to your home extremely compact, lowering the cost of transportation, which eventually will impact your pocket as a consumer. Okay? Now, since we're quite environmental friendly these days, and there's a lot of environmental awareness, and we're trying to save this planet if it can be saved. They are also focusing a lot on renewable and recycled materials that are used in a way that doesn't affect the design and the quality of the furniture that they're selling. So this is really resonating with what's happening today as a global way of thinking towards Mother Nature. And it's quite an affordable price for the modern unique design that they have at their furniture. And I've also seen that they do some local adaptability, coming with some bits and pieces of furniture which are more closer to, say, of the culture in which they are selling. And last but not least, and that's where I go back to tech and innovation, which I mentioned previously, that it isn't a business that cannot benefit of this if they deep dive into it and explore. Since they introduce it on augmented reality, now you have the possibility to visualize your furniture in a way that makes it look so real and palpable that you could save the time to actually go to a store or a shop. You might not have the possibility to go in one of their shops because they're in a city different than yours or a country different than yours, but still decide to purchase because the augmented reality has convinced you that this is the product for you. So this being said, this is the case study about IKEA and how IKEA translate its vision into mission, and then the mission is being broken into some of the tactics out there, which makes it a good business card for them to stay competitive and keep their promise towards the stakeholders made officially. Thank you very much for watching this video.